in my bag, swag.
A quick shout out to No Name is a fan of Metal Duckles that they drew, and Metal Duckles kind of looks like one of those Transformer robots actually, and so this looks really badass and cool. And as you can see, it's all the way back from November, and so I'm sorry this took so long to finally share. I mean, I'm still trying to think of ways of sharing fan art on this channel because it's getting a little bit harder as like more and more fan art comes in, so more to come on that. But thank you so much, No Name, I really appreciate it. But anyway, hello everyone, my name is RidersDX and welcome to my channel where today we got a really special guest over here, you know, and I'm kind of in disbelief that this is actually happening, so this is really cool. But yeah, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, this is Martin Kreuch. I'm a producer for Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, the new Spongebob remake coming out very, very soon for the publisher THQ Nordic.
Just first of all, I want to say on behalf of myself and also the community, just thank you so much for doing this and for your continued involvement with the community. I think it's really great to see how much you all like love listening to feedback and interacting with the fans and such, because special thing about this interview is that I didn't make any of the questions. These questions come directly from fans of the game, and so this is basically like a direct landline, I guess, from fans to you all. So I really appreciate it, and I'm sure the fans will be really appreciative too. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and get started, because I'm not sure how many questions we can get through, but I'll try my best to get as many of your questions answered as I can, you guys. So the first one is something I'm actually really interested in hearing about. How did Purple Lamp Studios get selected to work on this remake?
Basically, we were on the lookout for developers that have the necessary experience and that have also the interest in the franchise, obviously, that are really also fans of the series and all this kind of stuff, that have the experience of working with multi-platform, because Switch was, Nintendo Switch, for example, was from the beginning like something we wanted to definitely have for the game, but also PlayStation, Xbox One, PC. So you need a team that can handle this. We just have also a good relationship to the team of Purple Lamp, and they're just a very good developer.
Oh yeah. And I definitely have been seeing that too. Something I forgot to do is like I'm supposed to read off the name of each person that asked the question. So that came from Cabro and Selmo. And yeah, Purple Lamp Studios looks like they're doing a really good job so far. I personally am a really big fan of everything they put out so far. So yeah, looks like a good match. The second question comes from, so I kind of combined this with two different people because I think it all kind of fits together, but they're from Mr. Lehman and David Curran. I'm gonna mispronounce like half of these just so you know, everyone. So the question that they asked was, one, how far is this game in development? And two, how has the coronavirus impacted its development?
We're pretty far, basically, as you've seen from the pre-order trailer. Obviously, the coronavirus is a challenge for everybody, but luckily we were already on a very good way before all this broke loose. Yeah, it's a big challenge for the development studio, obviously, if suddenly everybody's at home and communication is suddenly all via video and you're not in a room. So it slows you down, of course, but luckily we've not seen that the team was extremely passionate, and they powered through this very challenging few weeks. Yeah, great fashion. So the game is looking great, as you can see from the trailer, and I think it'll look even a little bit greater when it comes out.
I pretty much have screamed like a little girl whenever I've seen like anything new. So when I saw that trailer, like my mind was blown. It was like 12 o'clock at night in my time, and so I was just about to head to bed, and then I saw everything that got reviewed, and it was definitely something really awesome to see. Just really grateful that this game is even happening. This third question comes from Pap Adam, and he wants to know if there was going to be a demo of this game.
We're looking into this. It always depends on also where to, like on which platform it makes sense and where to push it. There may be one, I can't confirm that yet, but you'll know if it happens.
I'm sure I'll be one of the first people that probably knows as soon as it happens. So next question comes from Nerds Dudo, and they want to know if there's going to be remixed or if you're updating the music in any way, because the music so far sounds like it's very faithful to the original, which actually a lot of people found to be really important. So I've seen like people express both opinions on this.
Yeah, it's always like that's generally on a remake, obviously, the question about faithfulness versus how do you bring it up to modern standards and expectations is always one of the biggest questions. With the soundtrack, actually, if you watched the pre-order trailer, that already had one of the remastered tracks under it. So all the guys that played and guys and girls that played it at the trade shows, they still had the really faithful original soundtrack under it. But we had a composer go over it and just bring it up to speed a little bit. But we've stayed very, very faithful to the original soundtrack. So it's all the original tracks, it's all the original melodies and stuff like this. It was more a question of just making sure that the sound quality is up there with what you'd expect nowadays.
It definitely sounded like really good from the trailers when I've listened to it. And so, I don't know, that soundtrack has a really big part of my life personally. So it's really great to hear Goo Lagoon like in the background during that trailer.
For all the fans of the soundtracks, what I can recommend is pre-ordering the PC version, because then, for example, on Steam you'll get the soundtrack for free as a pre-order bonus. Afterwards, you can obviously always buy it. Yeah.
All right, so this next question comes from Edgemaster, and this is a really specific question, but in the original game, one of the main complaints that a lot of people had was just the overall lighting at Kelp Forests. And so we did see some screenshots of Kelp Forests already, and it looks like y'all have done some things to kind of help improve like the look of it. But going into like design that level in particular, what were some of your thoughts?
I definitely agree. I think as many people have noted, overall, we've updated the game towards the new look also of the series to a degree. So it is in general a bit brighter, a bit more colorful, more saturated colors, because that was also, the personal kind of design choices of the team, of the Purple Lamp team. Because even within a remake, obviously the developer puts their very unique stamp on the game. And in this case, it's for the entire game. The lighting, I think, is much more brighter. I think that Rock Bottom and Kelp Forest are both two levels where I think people who played the original are gonna really their eyes are gonna water with joy, as they have for me, because personally, I think now Kelp Forest is one of the prettiest levels of the entire game. They've done an amazing job at updating that. And as a fan of the series, you probably know the Magic Conch Shell episode. So there's not that many episodes actually in the Kelp Forest, but that episode is one of the episodes, and so it's awesome to now be able to actually enjoy Kelp Forest, I think, a bit more with that feeling of being like in an actual lush jungle.
One thing I saw with looking at both Rock Bottom and Kelp Forest is that you all were able to keep like the original like feel to it. There's still like dark levels overall, but their colors are contrasted a little bit better. And I told a lot of people this, but it basically looks like the game that I thought it looked like when I was a kid. And so like I thought it was like this gorgeous, like extremely marvelous game when I was a kid, and now it actually is. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, I think that is generally our approach to remakes. At THQ Nordic is like we've done a couple of remakes already, and a remake compared to a remaster allows you to really rebuild the game from scratch, and that then really also allows you to say, okay, we stick close to the original, we keep the feeling, but we try to emulate how you remember the game rather than how it really was or is now, because since then we've all played a lot of different games, we've all had new experiences, and there's kind of like a little fog of joy over your favorite games and when you remember them. And I think the big challenge, and I think what the team really managed to do, was that the game, as you say, feels like the original, and you think that's how it played, exactly like this. And only if you look closer, then you realize the lots of little details and little tweaks that they did to make sure it's just that experience that you thought you had back then.
All right, so this next question comes from Nate the Great 24 Movies. He wanted to know if there would be more SpongeBob remakes in the future if this game does well.
We'll see. I think we as a publisher are very passionate in general about the SpongeBob franchise. And yeah, as everybody knows, it's always down to the fans at the end, how and sales numbers. It's a harsh reality, but that's how it is. And yeah, basically we'll see. It's not yet set in stone. It really depends on where we go from here.
Well, no matter how the game does, I just wanted to make sure that y'all noticed, but I really appreciate y'all releasing this amidst everything going on in particular, because we've seen a lot of like different gaming announcements and like games get delayed because of all this. So the fact that Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated is coming out like during a time where I think a lot of people will really appreciate it is really awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're also very happy that we were able to, and that the game was at a state where you say like, yes, we have the quality that we were striving for, and we can really now confidently put it in people's hands. And especially, with the new multiplayer that you can actually now play it with friends and family, even if they're not, because it's on split screen or not split screen, offline or online. You can even play it with friends if you're not in the same place, which now unfortunately is very often the case, obviously. So yeah, and obviously it's also a great substitute for people who were hoping to see the new SpongeBob movie, which we're all very excited about, but which has been delayed a little bit. So we hope we can kind of ease the pain for these people a little bit as well, so they have something SpongeBob-y to look forward to within that time period.
This next question comes from Gabriel Diaz Rivera. And so obviously this game has a huge speedrunning community. What was your ideas in terms of like, what do you want to maintain some of those strategies or trying to wipe them out? Like, how did you approach people's requests to keep certain glitches, I guess, in the game?
Generally, of course, I have to speak for the developer now. Their approach was to really look at what the speedrunning community had, like all the insights. Like the first big thing is that these people like Shift, somebody who I think we can by now call a friend, just has so much insight into a game, how you'll never catch up. This guy has played it thousands and thousands of hours, and you'll never get all those little details out of there that he has found. So this was a big thing. We were lucky enough to be able to bring him to Vienna, to the developers, to the studio sometime last summer, end of last summer, and really get his input. In terms of the, as you say, glitches, basically there the approach is that we all know they'll find new ones in Rehydrated. We're already very curious which ones. Curious / scared. But in general, anything that was an actual glitch, we did not reproduce. First of all, because a glitch is never as stable as a feature. So basically the only thing you can do is turn it into a proper feature that you test and make sure that it works. Because the problem with the glitch obviously is that those people who are not in control of it, the average player, will just run into it and may have issues. So I think the bottom line is, if you'd loved the glitches of the original, there's still the original to play, and you can try and best Shift if you can. And on the other hand, we're inviting everybody to have a go at the new one and see what you can find.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it, because you can kind of see both ends of it. It's like the speedrun community absolutely did a lot to like bring this game to life, and it's probably like the big reason as to why this game has the support it has for a remake. But another thing, you are remaking it, so it is important to make sure that the game is very polished as well. And so yeah, this next question is probably one of the most popular questions that I still get every single day. Will Mr. Kreuch be voiced by his original voice actor Clancy Brown, or will it still be the one from the game?
It's still the one from the game. Because basically there's a couple of reasons for this, also in terms of legally, that we couldn't replace him with the, as we all know, proper actor of Mr. Krabs. So it will be the actual voice lines from the original. On the other hand, I think what's at least for international fans What's pretty nice is that we have like the game now in 7 different languages, and across all these languages, it's really, as far as it's possible, all the actors from the original series. In terms of multi-language wise, you can there's more in this than ever before, which we're also pretty excited about, of course.
Actually, I didn't notice until I read it in my comments of one of my videos, but apparently the original, I think it's a German version of the game. I think the original game had mostly different voice actors from the show. And so from what I know, this new version will have a new dub with the original voice actors.
Exactly. With the English one, the English voice version is very iconic.
Yeah.
So we actually didn't want to change this anyway, because you're really used to how these sentences are, exactly how they are delivered, each of these jokes. So under every YouTube video out there, you have probably had the same experience. People quote their favorite lines.
Yeah.
And we think that with the original fans, these lines are baked in there and you hear them exactly how you heard them.
Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to.
But with the German version, it was really that we said, look, neither SpongeBob nor Patrick, none of the main characters were the actual actors from the series. So here it was a much bigger priority to, for the first time, really use the actors as far as they're available. Unfortunately, some have passed away since then. But basically all the most recent actors of every language. And this, is a very special experience. I think it's so apart from English, we have it in German, French, Italian, Spanish, Polish, and Japanese.
Wow. Okay, awesome.
So a lot of fun. I really love the Japanese version. I played that a lot. And because I know a little bit of vocabulary, so I can try to understand something. But yeah, it's just fun to hear the voices in from different kind of backgrounds and different languages.
Yeah, I saw a clip of the Japanese version once, and I died laughing for 3 hours because I thought that the way that they voiced the character was just hilarious. So I'm looking forward to hearing how they interpret the game. This next question comes from Music How, and he wants to know if there would be any cheat codes in the game like the original.
I'd have to check with the developers about that. I don't think that we are leaving them in there. There's always cheat codes in the game, obviously, when you're developing them. But I think currently we don't have plans to have cheats in there. Usually, especially for console titles, it's nowadays a bit tricky to leave them in.
Yeah.
I think what's easiest is in the PC versions to have it available. But I think that will be down to whether this is actually something that people really request or want to have, because every cheat code can also be something that breaks your game. So currently, I think there's not a plan to actually have cheat codes in there.
I actually didn't know the original game had cheat codes until I got that comment, and so it's just another one of the secrets of the original game that people were definitely looking out for and such. The next question comes from someone named the Superverse, and this is you can kind of take this question in any direction you like, but what's the one super important thing that y'all took into consideration when developing this game?
Yeah, it's pretty broad. I think it harks back to what we already talked about remaking it the way that people remember it, staying faithful to the things that people really appreciated about it, making sure that everything is as SpongeBob-y as possible, that all the animations, all the things that now you can do in a much more detailed way than back then, all the locations, the facial animations, in the original the characters would have the same kind of facial expression no matter their emotion. So now obviously we try to reflect the animation style of the series in the dialogues. But I think overall the basically, to put it in SpongeBob terms, is the most important thing is just love for the project. Like everybody who's involved is just, these things behind me. I've obviously put them here for this interview, I'm not gonna lie. but I did not have to buy those for the interview. They are just, I've prepared 20 years for this. So and that's how it is for a lot of us working on this. We've grown up with Spongebob, and I think this is what elevates the project a lot. Is if people are working on it that just have been this has been a dream come true for many of them because they've been long-term fans.
I definitely have to echo your sentiments. Like I chose out this shirt specifically for this interview, but then I realized when I started that no one would actually see it. So, but yeah, SpongeBob has had like a real impact on my life too. Like I'd watch only like 2 channels as a kid, Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, and SpongeBob was always on and such. And I think that's part of the game's appeal, is the fact that it's so great to the SpongeBob universe. Like it takes a lot from the actual TV series, incorporates that into the game. And I really think that's one of the main reasons this game is so popular still, because there's a whole lot of SpongeBob games, and there's some games that do a really good job incorporating the franchise and others that don't, but Battle for Bikini Bottom, in my opinion, is one of the best examples of that. Next question comes from, oh gosh, I can't pronounce this last name, Zachary Kusevich. He was wondering if there's any plans for DLC content with this game.
Currently, we don't, because we've actually when we created, like when you play the multiplayer mode, you can pick from how much is it? 7 characters. So you've got like Patrick, Sandy, and SpongeBob, obviously the main playing characters. But in addition, you have Mr. Krabs, you have Roboplankton, you have Gary, and you have Squidward. And at a certain point of development, we actually thought of making these characters like DLC. But yeah, at some point we just said like, look, this is just, it's so nice to have, let's just give it to people, and it's just now part of the base game. I think it'd be great to have even more playable characters in the multiplayer, but it'll basically depend on the reaction to the multiplayer itself. Because it's the first time that Battle for Bikini Bottom actually has a multiplayer, and the other SpongeBob multiplayer games were sole multiplayer games, so they were party games. So we still have to see like how enthusiastic are people about this multiplayer mode, about this horde mode, and I think that would be the best place where we might end up, adding some DLC, but currently this all depends on the reaction.
Yeah, and that's a really great way of looking at it, and I think people were just shocked to see that there were other characters beyond the Golden Trio being playable in this game. I know I was when I saw it. I could not believe my eyes when I saw it. So I think that's just such a great thing that you all incorporated into the game, because everyone was asking for this game to come back, but not many people asked for what y'all are doing, and so it's really great that y'all are still able to like give some prizes here and there, despite it being a remake. The next question comes from Zane Drake, and he was wondering if there were going to be any alternative skins in the game.
I don't think so at this point, because it's just not in the kind of fabric of the original. So I think slapping that on would. We tried not to introduce anything that's actually that just wasn't part of the original game, specifically not in the single player. But I think in general that I can totally understand the urge for it, as you can see. Got this like mariachi SpongeBob and freezy SpongeBob. So definitely an idea worth looking into. So it's not, but I think for Battle for Bikini Bottom it's not quite the right fit, because for the single player. But yeah, it's an idea that is very appealing.
This next question comes from something right. I think I pronounced. Anyway, they were wondering if y'all have had any contact with the original developers of this game, Heavy Iron Studios.
We've been in touch with Heavy Iron early, even before the project actually started, but during the development they were not actually involved. So at this point, mainly we're just grateful for the great original they created back then. but they did not have any direct involvement in the remake.
This next question, this is a fun question actually. This comes from the Dark Devil 16. They were wondering what boss fight is your favorite in the new game.
Well, it's a two-sided thing basically, because on the one hand, my favorite character from the series is the Flying Dutchman. So from that point of view, anything that has the Flying Dutchman in it is my favorite in the game. But I have to say that actually I love Prawn. Prawn is the character that only appears in Battle for Bikini Bottom, so it does not exist in the series at all, and it's just a very, very fun. Also, like the cutscene that leads up to it has a very fun little Star Trek quote in it, and it's just also very, very musical, fun kind of boss fight. So from a gameplay perspective, like overall, I think it would be Prawn. From a just fanboy perspective, it would be the Flying Dutchman.
I mean, you can't go wrong with the Flying Dutchman, definitely. Yeah, I always thought Prawn was a really weird addition to the game, but something that's tied directly to this game specifically. So I'm glad that the original developers were able to like implement something original into the game in terms of that. This next question comes from Medius Game. And not sure if you're all aware of this, but in the original game, they intended to have this part of the final boss with the robot Spongebob when he has like those big muscles, muscle-bot steel pants. And so he was wondering if that would be incorporated into this game.
We had a look into this because we tried to bring back as many of this cut content stuff that we could find, like Robo Squidward is now basically the boss of the entire multiplayer, and we made the rollerball area, like the skate park from the credits, we made that playable. So you can actually roll around the skate park with SpongeBob instead of just watching a video. So we tried to bring back these cut content stuff as much as possible, but most of it we implemented into the multiplayer actually, because it's a bit tricky inserting something into the single player campaign without, changing the overall feeling or changing the way it was. So we opted for taking those things and putting them into the multiplayer. So we actually have Muscle Bob Steel Pants basically as one of the islands in the multiplayer mode.
Oh my goodness.
But because I also remember, if I remember the design talks correctly, it was also that the team actually did try to put that second phase with these arms into the boss fight, and then quickly realized that it was a bit redundant, because the Robo SpongeBob already has this move where he slashes with his hands, and so basically we cannot speak for Heavy Iron, but maybe that's why it was dropped to begin with, because it would have been too redundant, and it's already a double boss fight. It's the Robo SpongeBob and then Robo Plankton. So yeah, from that perspective, we opted for just making sure we keep the original sacrosanct and put him into the multiplayer.
Oh, I'm really excited about that actually. Yeah, I can't wait to see how that looks. This question comes from Yellow Lord, and there was actually a few people that asked this. I was kind of surprised to get this question, but they were wondering if there was going to be any difficulty settings for this game.
We currently don't have different difficulty settings planned for the game. We know where it's coming from. It's probably that some people are also concerned that it may be too easy, because obviously you try to make the game accessible also to the younger fans of the series and stuff like this. But I think that we're in a great spot with the actual difficulty of the game, but currently different setups of difficulty are not planned.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to point this out because I've been seeing a lot of those concerns actually on my comment section as well. And I saw in the newest trailer with Jellyfish Fields in particular that in the wall jumping section you have arrows that point up. In the original game it was just like this really weird, almost off-brand picture of SpongeBob on there. And I remember watching a stream of a YouTuber that was playing this game for the very first time, and he spent like 15 minutes trying to figure out what to do at that section. It wasn't obvious to him that you could wall jump with SpongeBob. And so I do think that things like that have a place in the remake, because I think us being like really big fans of the game and having played it like so many different times, it can be hard to kind of like understand from the perspective of someone new how the game is. And so when I saw that, I was like, I wanted to rip my hair out because like, you just need to wall jump. That's all you need to do. But,
yeah, I mean, it's also, I think what's tricky about that and why the game is like, I think what you have to remember is that even that whole system of having signs that you need to read, because there is a sign that tells you how to wall jump. But if you don't read it, you don't know. And as we all know, a modern console audience is, or not just console audience, but like we're used from like modern blockbuster games that everything is displayed like directly, you know, press this button, press this, do this, do this. So from that perspective, we try to subtly make the player guidance a bit more obvious. Like with these arrows, you have the same thing on the on this kind of moving tracks that you know in which direction they go and stuff like this. But yeah, from a perspective of a modern game, this is still a difficult game in terms of that it's not an easy platformer, especially in the last few levels, and it doesn't hold you by the hand as much as maybe a modern platformer would.
It's funny to me because I find the game to be like really easy now personally. Like I can fly through it no problem. I remember when I first played it, I spent maybe like 3 hours trying to do that rolling ball puzzle in the Murmur Lair. And I remember when I finally did it for the first time, I felt this like really immense sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. It definitely can be a challenging game, but I think that's kind of part of its charm actually, because you know no one would expect a Spongebob game to challenge you in that way. So looking forward to reliving all that pain and heartache. This next question, I'm really interested in hearing y'all's answers on this actually, but this comes from Bun Bun Saturn, and they ask, if you made a direct sequel to the game with the same engine, do you have any ideas of what you want to do?
Whew. A lot of ideas. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas floating around what could be cool in a sequel. The thing is that first we need to see what people actually like, how they react to the actual remake, to the little details we added to the remake. Apart from that, I think it's really about the core values of the series. So all the fun and the enjoyment and the creativity and the weirdness. I think what we and the developer, what we at Purple Lamp, when we talk a lot about these, you know, the big close-ups, the painted close-ups with the weird details and the snot and stuff like this. So the little disgusting old school Nickelodeon stuff. So it really depends like who you are, but that's the thing. It speaks to the breadth of the series, that everybody who's watched it and who loves it has a different, or maybe slightly different, like thing. Like this would be the most awesome thing, like the leaf blower from the first season, or being able to float around with your pants inflated like in the other episode. So all these kind of things, I think there's a lot of things. And obviously while we did the remake, you always also just talk about like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could do this and this and this. So I think by now there's a long list of things that the devs would love to do in a full sequel, and we'll just see how what the future brings.
Wow, that makes me really excited actually, because I've been a big fan of SpongeBob games my whole life. You know, not just this game. I've played pretty much all like the big ones that people love, and so yeah, I'm really interested in seeing what the future brings. This next question was something that was asked quite a bit actually, and this comes from Imagine Man Ada, and they were wondering if Pearl would be in the game in any shape or form.
No, because she wasn't in the original, so she's also not in the remake. I mean, if somebody starts a Pearl petition, we can always put her in the multiplayer as a playable character, even though I think size-wise it could get tricky, that you still see anything. But no, the short answer is no.
Just branching off of that, I think watching Gary attack with I think it's like a frying pan in the multiplayer was really hilarious, and so I'm really glad you all got to incorporate Gary, because that's something I was definitely not expecting.
Yeah, he was challenging, of course, because it's small snail. But yeah, we quickly saw like how easy it is to find cool moves just from the series. Like every of the new multiplayer characters, it's from the series. When he does his slam attack, Gary, he grows little shoes, like these little 50s shoes, which is also from the series. Like the frying pan in his mouth is from the series. Obviously, Squidward attacks with his clarinet, and Mr. Krabs actually attacks with this swordfish skull from I don't remember the name of the episode, but where he's on the graveyard fighting the skeletons, and there he fights with this. So basically everybody, all the new moves we've put in there are taken straight from the series, and that's just the big advantage of having such a ultra creative series as your source material. Is just you just need to dig in and just find the best bits, and there's best bits everywhere.
Wow, awesome. And yeah, that makes me really excited to kind of like hear about some of those things, because those are definitely some iconic activities. You know, I would expect the Mr. Krabs to just use his claws, but I think the sword is a really nice touch, actually. This next question comes from Dreaming Stars, and I think you might have touched upon this a little bit, but they were wondering if there were going to be any new levels in the game.
In the actual single player, there's no new levels. We've only made the skate park playable, and we've created like the whole horde mode for the multiplayer, which has, I think, 25 islands or something that you like with wave fight. So yeah, it's a massive thing, but there's no new single player mission as such.
And so I guess this next question kind of bounces off of that, but maybe you can say if there's like any references to this or not. But is there any signs of like Love World in the game? Because I think that was a planned level that they had in the past, but I don't think they actually had any actual footage of it.
Yeah, no, for Glove World, that is not in the single player. I mean, there's a micro reference into it. If you've watched Shift's channel, he actually posted a little video about Sandy's dream. So there you have these floating cows, and we just added the little details that the balloons that make them fly are now the actual Glove World balloons. But that's it basically. So that's no more. But I mean that's also goes back to your sequel question. So obviously a Glove World, I agree. A Glove World would be a very fun level.
This next question comes from Lombax250, and they were wondering if Patrick's like original dream was going to be incorporated into the game in any way.
So that's the cut version, basically, the one that you could unlock via like sneaking into the game and see the rough version. Again, we basically opted for the same thing. It was basically an ice cream based level, of course, Patrick. So what we did was there's several islands in the multiplayer that are actually based on the cut Patrick's dream. So there's multiple islands on which you fight that are designed according to what was unlockable in the old game, and that have these kind of ice cream cones and this kind of style from that as far as we could kind of like guess it from what was there.
I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, I think Patrick's Dream, the original game, is just such an amazing joke that it really, I think I would have been a little sad if y'all try to change that. But I'm also really glad to see that you're trying to incorporate it in the multiplayer mode as well. So that's really exciting to hear. This next question, and I think you've all kind of answered this to like your trailers and such, but this comes from Jersey Plays Games, and they were wondering if there were like references from newer episodes. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we of course we try to, like, basically, for example, if you stand still, you get these little idle animations, which in Battle for Bikini Bottom they had a lot of idle animations. We replicated all of those, and then we added even more. And some of these newer idles are actually taken from newer episodes. So like classic memes and this kind of stuff. We have, I think we have Handsome Squidward as a painting in Squidward's Dream, these kind of things. So it's little references, I would say, because at the end of the day, the game itself is from somewhere between the second and the third season of Spongebob. But we wanted to make sure that, since we also update the look of Spongebob and everything to the current kind of look of the series, that we have little hints like these in there.
and that's really cool to see. So I already was like blown away by some of the ones that we saw. So I'm really looking forward to diving into the game and seeing what else you all have in store for us. This next question comes from Manny Paul, and he was wondering if there was going to be like a new Game Plus option with the game.
We don't have currently planned a Game Plus version.
I mean, like there's different ways of like grinding for those shiny objects that I found in the original game, and so it should be good.
I think that the game in itself already has quite a big, because since you don't have to finish every golden spatula to get through the game, for a lot of people, there's still a lot of things to do when you're done with the main storyline. Because for a 3D platformer, it's a massive game. Like, I think goes back to what you said earlier about how there's just so much content from the series in there, and that's why people love it so much. It's also simply because it's such a big game. Each of the worlds is split into several very unique areas, and I think that through this you already have quite a lot of replayability. And from the other perspective, we simply wanted to concentrate on the multiplayer, which obviously also gives you a lot of replayability, a lot of extra time you can spend with the game with a friend. So that's, I think, are the main reasons why we, sometimes you have to pick and choose what you can do and what's out of scope.
And so this next question, I feel like you've touched upon this throughout multiple questions, but I wanted to see if you had anything to add to it. But this comes from Adam Silverstein, and he wanted to know how you all balance staying true to the original game while integrating your own style, and wondering if there was like any challenges to this.
A lot of challenges. I think that the biggest challenge for staying true while updating is always that if you would break it open too much, then there comes a point where you're making just a new game. So all of us know the kind of remakes where it's actually just a new game that is inspired by the original. And that's not the case for Battle for Bikini Bottom. It's a cult classic. We wanted to really basically restore it and really bring back every little inch of what people loved about it. So yeah, the big challenge is how you still make sure that it fits with people's expectations of control schemes, of what they're used to, how to navigate, how much guidance they have. Because at the end of the day, if you're used to now with games having certain kind of ease of use features, and then they're suddenly gone, then it, for many modern players or younger players who are just starting out to play, that can be confusing and that can take away from the experience. Because after all, you want to have an experience where you just, you forget you're in the game. You're just there in Bikini Bottom. And I think was the biggest challenge, to make sure that to update the level design or the mission structures and designs without actually being able to completely, break them open and just completely redesign them because then it's not what it was anymore. So just within the confines that we had, to try and make sure that for a modern player or a new player, they can, just lose themselves in the game, because that's one of the big advantages of the kind of better graphics of a modern Unreal Engine 4, is that you really can get the feeling you're there, you're in downtown Bikini Bottom, you're in Kelp Forest, and you're on Snow Mountain, and I think that's part of the big enjoyment.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention this because this is kind of like my funny story with about Bikini Bottom, but it's a really great example of like getting lost in the world of the game. When I think I was like 10 or 11 when I first got the game. I remember coming down like a really like insane like illness. Like I was out of school for a few weeks actually, and I was vomiting multiple times throughout the week. And there was one day I got up and I felt extremely nauseous, and I think I vomited that morning a little bit. And my mom went out briefly to buy some medicine, and I snuck downstairs and turned on my Xbox and played a little bit about Bikini Bottom, and I hopped straight into Sandy's dream. I remember like as soon as I started playing that I stopped feeling nauseous. Like I just mentally like did not feel like I was sick anymore. And it was kind of like in that moment that I knew that this game was special. Like I just felt it in my heart that, wow, this is something that I'm gonna love for the rest of my life. And so that's exactly, I think, what you mean when you talk about that. I think it's really easy to lose yourself in the game. And another thing that I wanted to mention was that I loved how the worlds in the game originally were interconnected, and so you can kind of like, if you're in Jellyfish Fields, you can kind of see in the distance, you can see downtown Bikini Bottom, or even like Sand Mountain. You can kind of see if like there's other things to explore. And from what I've seen, like the new screenshots and new footage, it looks like you've all like taken the idea and made it even bigger. And so you can kind of see even more of the world in certain places. So I thought that was a really cool thing that you're all doing.
Thanks.
Well, the only question I had left was when the game was coming out. So that's pretty obvious, but I think I'll change it a little bit. If there's anything else you wanted to tell like the community directly while you're here, then I'd love to hear it. And also you can let them know how they can purchase the game and when they can get it, then that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so basically you can already pre-order the game physically, like physical copies, and our 2 big collector's editions, the Fun Edition and the Shiny Edition. You can already pre-order those on all platforms, so on Nintendo Switch, on PC, on Xbox One, on PlayStation 4. The Fun Edition is basically, there you have a figurine of all the 3 playable characters, plus little Tiki keychains and Patrick socks, so the collectible Patrick socks from the game. You can own the tennis socks. I've been wearing them for months now. And the Fun Edition, with the Fun Edition you get the figurine of Spongebob. And digitally you can pre-order the game on PC and on Xbox One. And tomorrow you will also be able to pre-order it digitally on Nintendo Switch. Yeah, and what did I forget? Oh yeah, the big thing that everybody was asking for the most. The game is out on June 23rd, 2020. I think that was the one question that we got asked a few times. So yeah.
Yeah.
So we're very happy to be able, even within this challenging time, to really release this game at a time where I think people will appreciate having the some positivity, the fun, the love, the friendship, all the stuff that makes SpongeBob great.
And yes, you completely right. Like you all got questions about the release date. Like I got questions about the release date. And I'm like, I don't know how I would know, guys. Like I'm sure like if I knew, I would let you know like ASAP. But I'm glad it's on the open and really looking forward to this. And so
big thank you also from the developer to all the fans out there and your eager questions and your enthusiasm for the game. We were blown away by the reaction to the pre-order trailer. Like it's awesome, more than 1 million views just on one channel and all over the place. So we're really happy that you guys appreciate the work that Purple Lamp has put into this. I think especially since the last few weeks have been particularly tricky for the developer, of course. So I think it gives them even more energy to know that this support is out there and that people are sending their love and their positive energy for them to work through this. And yeah, this always helps.
Just a big thank you to you all, because there's not a lot of like game publishers and developers that would do something like this, which is like answering questions directly from the fans and staying so active within the community and being so open to feedback. Like the video that Shift uploaded about Sandy's stream, that's just such a great example of how you all like take feedback directly and try to incorporate into the game, even though it's like really close to being released now. And so I just want to give you all some big props and thank you for doing this. Like this is a dream come true, being able to like talk to someone that's remaking one of like my favorite games arguably of all time. And so yeah, just thank you for everything and keep up the good work.
Thanks for inviting me, and yeah, I hope you'll like it.
I'm pretty sure like as soon as I see it, I'm probably just gonna die of happiness, so we're good. All right, thank you, Martin.
Cheers.
Shout out to Reese Gaming, Team Router Sonic Gamer, Andrew Coughlin, Glitch Dolphin, New Gamer Hub, Abraham Muner, Maz Muner, and my newest YouTube member, Angry Studios. These are my patrons/YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member, get access to a whole bunch of different perks, and please check out the links in the description box below. But alright, this is Riders, riding out.